My name is Norma Johnson, and I have the pleasure of working with your son or daughter in American Studies. And typically, have an opportunity to speak with you on back to school night a little bit about American Studies. And I realized since we use a different format this year, I didn't really have a chance to meet with you and talk with you. And I wanted to use this opportunity to talk a little bit about the class. We're about almost like 3 weeks in now, maybe going on 4 weeks in. And I wanted to use this as an opportunity to talk a little bit about the class. And tomorrow, the students will be getting back their first exam. So I want to give you a little bit of heads up about how things work and typically how things operate. So first of all, I'll run through typically my PowerPoint here or my presentation that I do on back to school night to give you just a little bit of perspective about the year. The ninth grade year, basically what we do in the ninth grade year is we cover American history that begins in the period really of colonization, of exploration, Spanish exploration, Portuguese exploration, all the way up to the British exploration. And we will follow it through the colonial period. We'll go through the French and Indian War, the American Revolution. By mid-year, we are getting right to the Constitution. And this is where I think what we do at Furman is really pretty exciting because several years ago, we made the decision to turn the U.S. history course, which in many schools is a 1-year class, into a 2-year class. And instead of having a separate sort of civics or government class, sort of national, state, and local is what they call it at the county level, we integrated civics right into the U.S. history curriculum. And in ninth grade, I teach sort of government in real historical time. And by that, what we're doing is when we get to the period when the Constitution is adopted, we stop and we study the Constitution for a couple weeks. We look at the Bill of Rights. We look at, the process by which, the House and the legislature or the House and Senate work together. We look at checks and balances. We talk about 3 co-equal branches of government and that. I'm writing to you tonight as the Democrats have just announced that they are pursuing an impeachment inquiry. So there is no better time to be taking U.S. History, but especially the way we do it at Furman with government integrated in it, because we'll be doing a lot of discussion about the politics of today. So basically, by mid-year, we'll go from the colonies, exploration colonies, to American Revolution and Constitution. Third quarter, we pick up with Washington, and we use Washington as the archetype of the executive. And then we study the executive branch and the role of the executive branch. We do the legislature at that time. We talk about the role of the legislature, the bill making process, and that. And then when we get to Marbury versus Madison, which occurs right at the end of Adams going into the Jefferson administration, is when we talk about the role of the Supreme Court. And so we do sort of we go back and forth in time. And what it does, I think, is it gives the students, while we're studying the history, I think it makes it really relevant for them, because what we're doing is we're trying to bring history to life. And they understand that when we're studying all this old stuff, that there really is a practical contemporary application to it. And then what we do is from that point forward, we follow sort of the evolution of the executive branch, the evolution of Congress, the evolution of the courts as we move through the rest of U.S. history up to at the end of the ninth grade year, the Civil War, slavery and the Civil War. We have 2 trips typically that we do. We typically go to Philadelphia and we spend a day looking at the Constitution. We look at the Declaration of Independence. We spend some time at Constitution Hall. Very exciting day. And then at the end of the year, in May, sort of our CAP program, or the end of our program, is we go to Gettysburg. And we spend a day at Gettysburg. We have a battlefield guide get on the bus with us and takes us around the battlefield, and they'll have been studying it. So it's really exciting for them to kind of see all the practical application of everything we've been doing. So that's basically what the school year looks like for the kids. If we talk a little bit about what else is involved in the ninth grade year, as you know, and I know very well, ninth grade is a year of tremendous transition. The kids are going really from middle school students, and they're becoming sort of the beginning of who they're going to be as young adults. And so there's a lot of transitions. Frequently, American history is the last thing they're thinking about, but it is important that we recognize that and acknowledge that. We know that there is tremendous development. Intellectual development at this time is just, their brains are firing off constantly. Their bodies are growing. I have kids that, come into class, and some students who are sitting there whose feet don't even touch the floor, and other kids who can barely sit, and fit inside the chair. So it's tremendous changes that are taking place at that time, and there's an awareness of it. And anybody who's lived with a ninth grader knows that it is a year of incredible drama, and it's a very exciting time. It actually is one of my favorite ages because I have the great joy of seeing kids come in as middle school students. And by the time they leave me, either in ninth or 10th grade, the end of the year, I really have a sense of who they're going to be. And you have that early formation of who they're going to be. One of the things that we really, really try to do, and I think that the ninth grade American Studies course is really good at this, is we really help the kids learn some basic skills. We want to make sure they're ready to be successful in upper school and in life. One of the things that we will really promote is self-advocacy. We want the kids to be self-reliant, and we want them to develop personal responsibility. This is a point where the students are going to start to sort of step away from parents a little bit, and I would ask parents to let them step away. If the student has a problem with something that's going on in class, I will encourage you to have the student come to me. While for some reason people think I'm scary, ninth graders sometimes, if they talk to one of the older students, and they can even bring an older student with them, they can bring a guidance counselor with them, please encourage them to come to me directly and personally, rather than sort of you intervene and sort of send emails on their behalf. It's really important that they develop their own voice and that they learn their own ability to be responsible for what's happening. I mean, that's part of what the growing up process is all about. My philosophy is pretty clear. I believe I'm a farm kid from Nebraska. I grew up. I worked very, very hard. I tell the kids often that I will, work often harder than they do on any assignment that they're given. And I think it's really important. I think that's something that is to be promoted in our school. I believe that we are in a time of tremendous partisan bickering and difficulty just communicating with people who disagree with us. And I really want to promote dialogue and discussion about political topics in the classroom. I believe that we can promote for the kids that you can you can disagree with each other, but there's no reason to be disagreeable. I believe that mistakes are going to happen, and they are going to make some whoppingly huge mistakes. That is part of the process of growing up. I don't know any adult that didn't make some big mistakes in the course of their growing up. And that's part of it is this is a safe space. I try to create a very safe space for the kids to do that, but they need to do that. They need to be able to be given enough freedom that they make mistakes, and they're allowed to, and they know that they can get themselves out. My family, we have a joke that, you've got to be able to, give them the shovel to dig the hole, and then, let them problem solve to try to get out of that hole. And that's really useful because that problem solving is really critical. I assign homework regularly, almost nightly. I tell the kids and I promise them I don't believe in busy work, but I fundamentally believe, and 21 years in the classroom, 21 years teaching ninth grade has taught me that the more we revisit topics, the more we review topics, the more they see it, they go home, they talk about it, we talk about it in class, that they are going to retain it and they are going to learn it. And for me, that is the essential reason of why I do what I do. I believe so deeply in the country. I believe so deeply in the study of history and what we can learn from that I really want to promote that. I also like to have a good time. So I'm a big believer that we should be having fun in the classroom. And that is often sort of controlled fun, sort of on a schedule in a way that I, want to do it. We learn about dictatorships, therefore they get to learn about my classroom. but it's really important that they have a good time. And I think we try to laugh. I tease a lot, but generally speaking, the kids work hard, but we play hard as well. Now, the hardest thing to get them used to is that grades matter less than learning. And this might be hard for parents to hear too, but in ninth grade, there it is so important that the kids begin to understand the significance and the importance of learning and education. Certainly, grades matter, but a single grade on a test, a single grade on an assignment is not the end all be all. And if we can take the pressure off those grades and we can help them learn from those things, that's going to be really important. Tomorrow, the kids are going to be getting back their first test. Some of the kids are going to do really well. Some of the kids are not going to do so well. When they get it back, one of the things that I go over when I meet with my students, and I emphasize with my students that this grade is simply a status check for us. It's we will either see that you're doing everything accordingly and you're doing well and you're performing well on exams, which is awesome, or we've identified and we're beginning to identify areas that we need to focus on. Because every area that they are not performing as well in is an area that we can work on, an area that we can work to develop further. And we want to catch that now, and we want to be able to identify it now so that we can work and help them attain those skills so they'll ultimately be successful in the rest of high school and obviously college and life. But to do that, sometimes there's some shock that comes, and there's value in shock a little bit. There will be some kids that will probably see grades that they've never seen before. That's okay. I will work with them. I meet with kids at lunch. I meet with kids at breakfast, before and after school. So it's really important that we allow them this chance. I guess maybe that's being a farm kid. I believe that what we used to call, the school of skin knees. Sometimes you have to let kids fall down. Sometimes you have to let them skin their knees so that they learn that there's value in struggle, there's value in putting yourself forward, but that it's okay and that they're not going to die from a bump or a bruise. So that's one of the philosophies and one of the approaches that I'd like the kids to adopt. And I want the parents hopefully to support this. If you want to talk with me separately, that's fine. Send me an email. I will get in touch with you. We can talk separately. But I think it's really important that we partner, if possible, together. And I apologize. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to meet everybody individually and really talk with everybody. But I think it's really important that they know we're on the same side and we're on the team, and that they are our singular objective, and that our goal is for them to ultimately be successful. And believe it or not, in 21 years, I have yet to lose anybody. Okay. One of the things that I look for in my students, by the end of the year that we've acquired and the skills they've gotten, is they're responsible, that they own their successes and they own their failures. It's difficult sometimes for parents to watch kids write papers and watch them write essays because they don't write very well. They're ninth graders. Of course, they don't write very well. You didn't write very well when you're in ninth grade. But if you help them or overhelp them too much, then I don't know how to help them. And I can't give them the skills that they're lacking if they get too much assistance from home. And that's everything from homework assignments to even doing their homework. At some point, they have to be responsible for that. They have to earn their successes for doing it right and take their hits when they fail. Because sometimes we underestimate what they can do, and we actually rob kids of authentic learning and authentic success. I want them to understand the expectations, to accept the challenges. And that's one of the things I really work hard to do. I push integrity, really, really hard in this class. It is important. We live in a world where sometimes we get the message that shortcuts matter. I will never be the person to tell them shortcuts matter, or shortcuts, are okay. They're just not. Every kid is expected to do their own work. They're expected to ask for help, and I will push them all very hard to take intellectual risks. Don't always go for the answer that is going to give you the good grade. Sometimes you want to sort of take your brain out for a spin and give it a shot, and that's okay. But talk to me, tell me what you're doing, and let's see how it goes. I believe in hard work. This goes back to my upbringing. I believe in hard work. I want them to learn to set goals, to push themselves, to ask for help and to seek improvement. They are much more capable than they would have us believe oftentimes. And part of it is, I frequently will have students try to hand in a test after the bell's rung, and maybe they have extended time and they'll have 4 or 5 questions left. And I'm like, well, but you didn't finish it. Or they'll hand it in early and they'll say, oh, but I don't know anything else. And I'm like, well, you still have 20 minutes. You sit there and you try. And then they start thinking. And I said, just let things percolate a little bit. And oftentimes, the longer they sit there and they reread their tests, things start to pop into their heads. So it's helping them develop and use the tools that are around them, which is also really important. I want to develop kids that ask questions. I want them to ask you questions. I want them to ask me questions. I want them to think, engage, listen, put things together, challenge things. It's really important that we help these kids start to stand on their own 2 feet, develop their own voice. And a lot of that's going to come with you and I working closely together and supporting them in doing that. Again, we do so many different kinds of things in class. I use a tremendous amount of technology. Occasionally we use cell phones. We do mostly discussion and debate. We read a tremendous amount of primary text. We do vocab. There's occasionally lecture and note taking, but all along the way, because it's a 9th grade class, I try to do study skills. I try to point out things that they should be knowing. I have sessions at lunch. I do sessions on the study period, all the while trying to get kids to come in of their own volition and sort of seek out that opportunity for assistance. And this is where the test comes in tomorrow. When they get that test back, you could have maybe your child does well. That's awesome. If they didn't do well, that's the beginning of a much longer discussion. Please let me have that discussion with the kids. There is no grade that is worth panicking over. You're going to see, there are some people that kids are going to get D's on this test. There are some kids that may even fail this test. Not many, but it could happen. And so what happens is, what that does is that gives us a piece of information that we need to start identifying what we have to do so they ultimately become successful. Sorry to take so much time, but and it's funny when I have it this way, I actually get to talk a little more in depth about some of these things. But please contact me. Here is my email. It's Johnson N, so 2 N's at the back, mjbha.org. Like I said, I've been at Berman a long time. I've worked with a lot of kids, and I love it. I love everything about the 9th grade. I love everything about working with these. I love the topic so much. And I feel so strongly about what we can do for these kids and how we can prepare these kids for the world and to become active, engaged citizens. So thank you so much for sharing your children, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. And again, if you get a bad grade, don't panic. You can send me a note, but encourage your son or daughter to come and see me ASAP. All right? Thanks. Have a great night, and hopefully talk to you soon.